see me and how many of you are just here and you got caught here. But that's great that you're caught here. So, but while you are here, please, you know, get a beer, get a glass of water. Thank you so much for this. The second time I've been at Green Wolf. And I love it, and I also love the ethos, the sort of the Green Wolf ethos of independent businesses that are determined to succeed, be part of the community. But as you said last time, as a business owner, you don't need to basically always be merging, always be growing, always be just looking for, you know, profit at all costs. You can seek profit to survive and thrive without putting aside everything else, and I really appreciate that. I think that's actually the future of this area and the future of America. I'm Zephyr Teachout. Some of you I've met before. For some, it's the first time. Basic questions. Teachout is Dutch. It's not made up. The Teachouts came up the Hudson and turned into Teachouts because nobody could pronounce it probably. And then lived in Dutchess County and Ulster County for several generations, and then moved north to Lake George in rural Vermont, which is where I'm from. So I grew up in a dairy community in Windsor County, which is a few counties over from the... Are you from Windsor?
No, just dairy community.
Okay.
Farm community.
Yeah. So I was a teenager during the 80s farm crisis, you know, during the sort of early dairy termination, which was really devastating. And, you know, in a lot of ways, I mean, in many ways, dairy farmers are still really, really struggling. And especially the mid-scale dairy farmers and small-scale dairy farmers that should be thriving in this area. And saw, you know, lived firsthand what happens when a rural community gets the rug pulled out of under it and trying to figure out other ways to make a living. I'm running for Congress because Congress is a mess. It's, you know, I grew up in the 70s really believing in this promise of America, this idea that people have equal dignity, equal respect, equal voice, that whether you're a CEO or a secretary, you have something to say, and that if somebody wanted to make something work, the community and society was there to support making that work, whether you're an independent business owner or want to do some other kind of work. And that's not working right now. We have this radical inequality, which doesn't make any sense except for the 1%. We have attitude towards fossil fuels, which still doesn't recognize what a crisis they are for our climate. And we have an approach towards trade, which has really decimated not just our country, but isn't helping globally. We've offshored lots and lots and lots of jobs and really pulled the rug out of under communities that could be thriving with our trade policy. And I think the root reason for this isn't, you know, there's things we can debate about, but I think most people want clean water, most people want clean air, most people want good middle-class jobs, most people want, you know, real support for their kids, swimming classes and arts and sports and you know, education that supports the full child. The people who disagree are people who are just trying to make money off us, basically, and there are not very many of them, and that's a good thing. There's a really, really small number of extremely wealthy interests who are doing everything they can to buy our Congress, buy our Senate, buy our presidency, and buy our Supreme Court, and our state houses. And so we're at this you know, we're at this crisis moment right now. That's what I really think. And I know it can feel scary that there's a real question about the future of the country. And it is, you know, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime crisis. Like, can we as a country really face up to what's happening? You see that in terms of presidential politics and things that nobody expected, certainly a year ago. But I'd say that we've been seeing it really since the crash of 2008 and Irene. that both in the financial world and in the environmental world, we've had these major crashes that have woken a lot of people up to say something fundamental isn't working. So we're in this earthquake moment, and I believe that, you know, when there's a crisis, like when the house is on fire, you can either run away or you can run towards it carrying buckets. And I think the thing to do is run towards it carrying buckets and a vision of what we can do to rebuild. People's minds are open in a way they haven't been in a long time because they realize the depth of the problem. And although that can be scary, I think that's really exciting. So what I want to do in Congress is not go there alone. You know, I want to break down the doors of power and bring all of you with me. I want to raise up the voices that have been shut out of the music teachers and independent farmers and small business owners and Verizon workers and parents of special needs kids, all of these voices, and bring them with us, because I believe the only way to respond to this moment is to bring more voices in, raise more voices up to take on the big money. The 19th Congressional The 19th Congressional District is heaven. It is beautiful. It is huge. My new Chevy is now an old Chevy. We've put on about 27,000 miles. It is from Cooperstown to Hoosick Falls, Narrowsburg, Callicoon, Kingston. And although it was gerrymandered, there are some things that tie the districts together. In every area of the district, people have had the rug pulled out of under them, whether that's the loss of IBM or the hotel jobs or jobs being shipped overseas as the tanneries left. In different areas, it's different industries. But in every area, there's been a basic loss of middle-class jobs, and also a loss of the job supporting the independent business owner and independent farmer, which is really essential to this area. I could talk a lot about ag, but basic thing that is really important. 75% of subsidies are going to basically a handful of big industrial ag. So the small and mid-sized farmers are competing unfairly. They're in a really tough position, and our policy isn't supporting it. And we just have kind of insane policy right now. Like in Ulster, we ship our apples to Texas to get sliced, to get put in little plastic bags, to get shipped back here, to get sold in our McDonald's, instead of just like, we can slice apples in case. These are sort of common sense things. It's called efficiency, it's not efficiency. So it's these 11 counties, unbelievable spirit of independence everywhere. So some people will tell you this is a Republican district because Chris Gibson currently holds it. That's not true. It's not a Democratic district either. It's really, really an independent district. And there's a lot of mixed marriages. In every sense, in terms of politics. People really, really are going to make up their own mind about who they like and going to vote zigzaggy. Just 4 years ago, Gillibrand won 63% in this district. So don't let anybody tell you that a Democrat can't win here. But that independence is really important. And when you're talking to people, and what I found is that when I'm having response from not just Democrats, but Republicans and independents, is that people know that I will be independent. I ran against Andrew Cuomo. I'm willing to stand up in my own party. And I basically just can't help it standing up if I think something's wrong. So that's not going to stop, like it or not. I'm running against a guy named John Faso.
We've heard of him.
Yeah. So the most important thing to know about John Faso is that he's already shown that he's willing to cash out. He was an assemblyman, and then he cashed out, and he's been a lobbyist for the last 10 years. And he was a lobbyist for Tennessee Gas. He was a lobbyist for the NED pipeline. He was paid by the Constitution Pipeline to go to hearings and explain why the Constitution Pipeline should have the right to take away people's land so that they could ship frack gas over it. He was also a lobbyist for, it's a long list, New York City real estate interests, and he's already shown who he's willing to carry water for. But sometimes I don't feel like I'm running against John Faso, I feel like I'm running against his backers. So my average donation is $15.91. A lot stingier than Bernie Sanders donors. I don't know what's wrong with my supporters. John Faso has two people. I'm going to spend a minute talking about this because this is really important. Both billionaires, hedge fund managers, who have each written $500,000 checks. $500,000 checks to a Faso super PAC. I know, like, think about the cost of a house, and then think about 3 houses, and then think about a hedge fund manager writing a check in one day to make sure that I don't get to Congress. So maybe we got them scared. So I feel like this is about the people of the 19th district against the hedge fund guys. That's what it's really about. Because these two guys who are each willing to write $500,000 checks are doing it because they believe John Faso is going to carry their water when he's in Washington. And because they believe that he's going to shut the door, not bring people in, and bring that closed door lobbying culture with him.
Do they live in the district?
What?
Do those people live?
No, they don't live in the district.
They live in the U.S.?
They live in the U.S., but they are the biggest pro-TP, pro-NAFTA. They've made money off of offshoring, and they don't want to see us stop the TPP. They don't want to see us renegotiate NAFTA. They don't want to see us actually rethink our trade relationships, which we have to do. And there's a real moment to do across the aisle.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the reasons, I think they're in this race is they're scared about the TPP and NAFTA. And they should be. So I can get into the weeds on various policy things. I'd like to be on the Ag Committee if I got there. Yay. Small business is also really important. Education, which I talked about more last time I was here, is something I'd also want to do. But the other committee is sort of the committee of the public, the committee of people, because we're at such a crisis moment that it's not like it's the 1950s and we're just going there to sit in a room and negotiate policy. We're going there to make sure that people are in the room and it's not just lobbyists negotiating with each other. This is like taking on corruption itself, changing the way we fund elections. We need public financing of elections at every single level. And I've already been working with the 2 Congress members who care about this the most, and I will be a constant voice for that. This past week we've been, and actually more than a week, we've been for a while, really focused on independent businesses. And one thing that I think it's really important for people to understand is how both Democrats and Republicans have really left independent businesses behind. We've had basically a 25-year collapse if you look at real numbers for independent businesses, and we have to make sure that we support basic things like access to line of credit, which is really important if you're a farmer, and it's really important if you run a garage. And it's really hard to get access to a line of credit, even if you're, even if you're making a profit every year. If you're on the small end of things, Bank of America isn't lending, and guess what? We bailed them out. So that's really important. Infrastructure is really important. Dealing with health costs is obviously really important across the board because insurance costs are out of control.